Hey everybody, it's Greg Drevenstedt, Editor-in-Chief at Rider Magazine and your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. I'm here with Mike Noyes, CEO of ALIV Worldwide. We're actually on location here in Murrieta, California at the headquarters of ALIV Worldwide, and we're going to talk to Mike about his company and what they do. Well, Mike, thanks for inviting me to your headquarters and thanks for being on the show. What I want to know is, tell us a little bit about ALIV Worldwide. What was the inspiration behind starting this company?
Well, ALIV Worldwide was never ALIV Worldwide. It was a guy who worked too much, former finance executive who just put in crushing hours all the time, and then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, my business shut down, and I had nothing to do. And I was at the time divorced and sitting in this big house by myself, and my kids were off with their mom somewhere in Marco Island, Florida. And I was like, what now? So I jumped on my motorcycle, and I'd never done an overnight jaunt on a motorcycle. But I said, this would be a good time for me to take my motorcycle and just see the country. It was the worst time to see the country because everything was shut down and I couldn't get a hotel anywhere.
Right.
Closed. There were no campgrounds that were open. I go to a hotel, but they turn me away. I'm like, I just want a place to sleep. But it turned out to be perfect because I learned what it was like to just be on a motorcycle by myself out in the wild. And it had, over the course of a few days, like a therapeutic effect on me. My blood pressure went down. I felt like my senses came alive. I started to smell things, see things. I just felt like something in me was kind of waking up a little bit. And I thought, this is pretty cool. Well, I called my then girlfriend at the time and said, hey, I think I'm going to stay on the road for a bit. She's like, well, how much longer do you want to be out there? I said, well, 3 more days. Well, 3 more days turned into 3 more days, turned into 3 more days. 46 days I spent on my Harley Davidson, just riding around the countryside in the U.S. And I just realized I had to do this. I had to get guys out doing stuff like that. And that's how sort of ALIV started, if you will. It evolved. We had all different names for it. We called it Sasquatch. We had all these things because the mythical creature that runs into the forest. But we settled on the name ALIV. And just as early as 2 years ago, it was just a small effort working out of my garage, where we just had a few bikes in my garage, and I just invite friends to come take rides with me and just get their input. What do you think about these rides through these hills in California? What do you think? And most of the guys that I know are other business guys, right. Who they were like, yeah, this was actually really cool. Some of the guys I know since moving here to California are like industry motorcycle guys, like grizzled race team managers and guys who own supercross teams, and I would take some of those guys out. Even some current supercross riders that are competing right now, those are my friends that live in my neighborhood, so I would take them out on these adventure bikes. And they would invariably come back like little kids, like little boys. They felt like they had been renewed. And a lot of them had never even ridden an adventure bike before.
Sure.
They've ridden motocross bikes, they've ridden enduro, but they've never ridden an adventure bike. And they certainly hadn't had like a leisure ride in years. That was kind of the common denominator. Right. But no matter what their sort of origin was or what their level of expertise with the motorcycle, after a day on one of these motorcycles out in the mountains, different person. Right. So that's how it started. And I realized as people were having some kind of a transformative effect, what the bike was, that I thought maybe we could grow this and market this to people that really need it. Right. So. Right.
So I know you've got basically ALIV offers adventure tours, something called the multi-venture.
Yes.
Is a multi-day experience, and so kind of what would that experience be like?
Well, when we conceived of the multi-venture, we thought if we created something that was the ultimate bucket list idea that had to do with motorcycles, right? That would be so fun that even when you talk about it, you get kind of excited. What would that look like? Kind of like the ideal motorcycle expedition. We came up with this idea that we would ride. One day we'd ride adventure bikes. The next day we'd ride dual sport bikes. The next day we ride UTVs. The next day we ride electric bikes. The next day we ride motocross bikes. So we wouldn't limit the mode of transport. We would let the terrain that we're in dictate the kind of vehicle that we're going to ride or drive. Right. And we started playing around with that idea, and we found the right combo. And we feel it's exciting because it's groundbreaking. There's no one else has ever done it. It's a logistical nightmare for us, but it's awesome for the customers, for the guests, for the members who come out and try it. They're like, this is really fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate to go on quite a few organized tours that paid participants go on, and I think the thing that most people are attracted to with that kind of all-inclusive experience is they just sort of show up. They pay their money and they don't have to worry about anything, because everybody that these days they're busy, they don't have time to plan things, they don't really want to deal with the logistics, they don't want to deal with the risks of this or that or the other. They just want to show up and everything is taken care of. They've hotels and motorcycles and everything's maintained, and then they can really enjoy being immersed in the experience without having to worry about managing the whole operation.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we want to make it turnkey. That's an overused word. We just really want it to be is that you buy a plane ticket, you come out here, and after you buy your plane ticket, that's the last thing you know. And then the next thing you're doing is just epic stuff on a motorcycle. And we take care of the food, the lodging, the clothing, even their gear, the riding gear. It's all here for them. So they just show up and ride.
So let's say somebody, these tours typically start here at ALIV Worldwide's headquarters.
Yes.
So we're in Murrieta, California. This is KTM North America is just up the street. We can actually hear their test track just a couple doors down.
Yes.
And of course, we're surrounded by mountains and great trails, also great paved canyon roads and so forth.
Yeah.
So this is a great starting point for any kind of good motorcycle ride. So what is the experience? How does it kick off if they show up here to get introduced to their fellow riders and you?
Absolutely. So the first day they come here on a Monday morning. So they'll probably fly in on a Sunday night, but they get here Monday morning to headquarters here. We'll have a food spread, some breakfast, because they'll probably be a little hungry in the morning. We're going to take them back to our ready room, which is behind us here. In the ready room, we'll have like lockers, if you will, where everyone's gear, we have 4 days worth of riding gear for each and every rider. Now, we already know what their sizes are because we've been in touch with them. We have their helmet sizes, glove sizes, boot sizes. So we get them completely kitted out with the off-road riding gear, all the armor, all that stuff, and also the on-road riding gear. And once they're comfortable with that, great, we move them over to the motorcycles and we actually dial them in. We make sure we change the levers, and probably like what you do when you go on a media tour, they probably make the bike just right for you. Yeah. We do the same thing for them because they're going to be on the bike for 4 days. So we want to make sure they're comfortable. Right. So we get them all dialed in on the bike and then we just take off out of here. Just about a quarter mile from here is a little test track we have. And the test track's designed to kind of figure out how their skills are on a motorcycle in general, and specifically how their skills are on a heavy bike when there's not a lot of traction.
Right.
And once we figure that out, we kind of suss them into different ability groups. And I've taken a lot of adventure tours to learn about this industry because I'm a finance guy. I am not a motorcycle guy, right? I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I thought of this idea. So I knew I had to learn. So I went out and took a bunch of tours. And what I learned was a common, I want to call it a mistake, but maybe an oversight, is a lot of the tour companies don't employ enough guides. So if they have a dozen customers show up, they have 3 or maybe 4 guides, which really means you've got kind of one group, maybe 2. But in my experience, when we have a group as large as 12 guys show up, say, you'll have guys who want to go really fast, and then you got guys kind of in the middle that can kind of, the intermediates, and you got the guys who are dragging. Yeah. And if you try to put it in one group, either you're going too slow and the guys that want to go fast and hit that single track and that stuff, they're going to complain, or the guys over here in the back are going over their head. Right. And they're crashing, and that's not good either. Right. So we want to prevent that. So what we do is we take them to the test track, find out what their skills are, not what they say their skills are, not what they think their skills are, because I think everyone thinks their skills are probably a little bit stronger than they are. And we don't care what your skills are. You're going to enjoy this thing. It's going to be awesome for you, but we want to make sure we get you in the right group. So that's the first thing we do. That takes about an hour. Yeah. After that, we know we kind of have a sense of where you are, and we take you out for the rest of the Monday. We just drive, and we go through all like wine country, and we do a big loop around Palomar Mountain, and we come back and we probably have dinner at a winery. Yeah.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, that's the first day.
Cool. So, I mean, the sort of people that are going to show up here, so they can have a range of riding experience. They can be novices. They can be people that like to go fast. And sounds like you're going to accommodate whatever those skill levels are. Yeah.
We're not really looking for someone with a specific skill level. Yeah. If you can ride a bicycle and you can balance yourself while walking, we have a tool that you can use here. Right. So we offer everything from, clutchless or DCT Africa Twins to electric Stark bikes with no clutch, no shifting. So again, if you can ride like a mountain bike, there's probably something here that you can do. If you don't want to be on two wheels at all, we still have you covered. We've got these slingshots from Polaris that are so much fun to ride. They're these little roadsters that you can hook into, and you ride right alongside the guys on the motorcycles through the canyon roads, and it's a lot of fun. So if you want to bring your buddies, and maybe some of your buddies aren't as skilled, or they don't have a motorcycle license, and they want to kind of be along for the adventure, but they don't have the right skill set, no problem. We have you covered. So we're not really going after the most advanced riders. We're going after anyone who would love to do this kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So what are the kind of guys that typically show up for these tours that are your clients, your members?
Guys like me and you, the midlife crisis crew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Guys who are probably entering their 50s.
Yeah.
Empty nesters, guys who've, we kind of message to what we call high achievers, guys who own their own businesses and have accumulated, a little bit of freedom, more so than some other guys might have. And it's not about money for us. It's more about, do you have the ability to take a week off and travel somewhere?
Right.
And that's hard for a lot of guys. Some people, I think the average American gets less than 2 weeks vacation a year. So we want to kind of go after the guys that maybe have a little bit more freedom so they can add this into their schedule. Right. So I would say guys who are business owners, typically CEOs, organizational leaders, small business owners, those are the typical guys that show up for this in general.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what sort of experience are some of your customers looking for when they come on one of your multi-ventures?
So we have this survey that we ask people, like, why are you coming? What is it? You saw our ad. Now, what is it about the ad that you saw that interested you? Yeah. And some people will say, well, I want to level up my circle. I want to ride and do cool things with other guys like me who want to do adventurous stuff. Right. Some guys will say, man, I just have worked so hard. I just need to unplug. Right. Some guys will say, it's been a long time since I've been on a motorcycle. 20 years ago I had one, but my wife made me sell it. Yeah. So now I want to kind of sneak back out, and I technically didn't buy a motorcycle if I come out here and do this, but I can still experience it. So we have guys from that crowd. Right. So it's really any guy looking to get out in the wild in a real authentic way. That's kind of sick of checking in at the Hilton and drinking margaritas all day for a vacation. So a guy who wants a more active vacation that maybe he can learn something about himself, he can level up his skills in some way. Right. And there are parts of our tour, Greg, that are hard.
Sure.
And some guys are attracted to the fact that they're going to suffer a little bit at certain sections of the tour. And we design those difficult moments on purpose because we find that actually guys remember the times when the bike falls over. Right. They remember the times when they couldn't get up that hill, and then the guys rally around to get them up the hill. Right. And so we design a little bit of difficulty in there for everybody. Right. And I think some guys are looking for the challenge. Right. So I think it's hard for me to put my finger on what, I don't know if there's a common theme. I guess there is. Brotherhood. Yeah. Sure. I think just guys meeting other guys that are like them.
Right. Well, I can only speak for myself, but I know that I'm 51. I know that what I've gone through the last few years is staying within my comfort zone it's kind of stifling in a certain way. Yeah. It's funny, I was driving down the street a few months back and weirdly scrawled on the side of a wall outside of a subdivision, which is a weird thing. It was like in chalk. Somebody wrote it, said, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And so staying a little bit too safe, a little bit too conservative, especially if you're at a point in your life where if you've raised kids, you're successful in your career, you've figured out how to do a lot of things, and you've probably got all your ducks in a row. So being able to, like I said, find a little bit more of your wild side. Yeah. Well, how do you do that? How do you do it? And it's weird to say, how do you explore your wild side in a safe way? Yes. Because nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to take undue risks. But to, like I said, get outside your comfort zone and challenge you. And I can speak from personal experience because I'm not really a native off-road rider, but I've done lots of riding on adventure bikes, and being on a challenging trail, it's a little bit scary at times, and it's a little bit overwhelming at times. But once you've kind of gotten to the top of that hill or you've gotten to the end of that trail, and especially if you've done it with several other people, that's what you talk about around the campfire.
Absolutely.
You have a cold beer in your hand and you're all, swapping war stories about the day and what you did and how cool it was. And people drop bikes, people, make mistakes and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
like, can you take all of that in stride is really, I think, part of the experience that I know I enjoy when I get to go out and do those kinds of things myself. So,
100%. So now I feel like this is the part of the interview where we're getting real. No, because that's really it. So what you hit the nail on the head. And I talk a lot about this to people who will listen, and I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, I think today's man, in living in today in our modern comforts and our society as it is, we've engineered all of the risk and danger completely out of our lives. Right. So, soon, we don't have to worry about the jaguar jumping on us or fighting off the saber-toothed tiger. That's long gone, right? But now cars are starting to drive themselves. My truck, when I'm not paying attention, hits the brakes for me.
Right.
So it's like there's a feeling as a man that kind of what is central to a man is his ability to manage danger is being engineered out of our world. Right. And I feel like what we're doing at ALIV allows guys to jump in and do dangerous stuff. Yeah. But in a setting that's kind of it's responsibly done. Right. And I think that appeals to a lot of people. Right. It certainly does for me. I get the kind of thrill I get out of riding a motorcycle through the wild with a bunch of dudes, and we don't know necessarily even where we're going at that moment, and it's exciting, and it feels like you're living your own personal Western movie, right? Where you're your own little John Wayne for a moment out there among the cactuses. Right. And I feel like men need that. And to the degree that we do not exercise that part of us, something in us kind of dies. Sure. And I think that's part of the reason why guys our age a little bit struggle with being 50 and like, what next? Right. So I think ALIV, part of it is just giving them a next to do, right, to test themselves, to push those limits, right, and to see if they can handle those tests. Right. So that is a huge benefit to our tours.
Well, the thing about the adventure bikes is they've been very popular the last decade or so, and I know that there's a component of adventure bikes. It's almost like SUVs. Everybody's got all these built out, everything from Land Cruisers and Porsches is that adventure bikes are aspirational. It's like, mm-hmm, they've always, mm-hmm, been they represent where it can take you, even if you, yeah, don't always do that. Some people, yes, are like, oh, well, you always see the BMW GS at the Starbucks or whatever, but, yeah, but yeah, they do have the capability, and if you're able to provide that where people can go out and explore an area, and really, the thing about adventure bikes is they're capable off-road. Even though they're big, heavy motorcycles, yeah, they're very capable. Really, the off-road is kind of where the magic happens, because you get away from regular traffic, you get away from your, yes, normal tourist stops and things like that, and you're out on back roads, you're really away from it all. And we're very fortunate here in Southern California, a lot of public land, a lot of national forest land, yes, and you can get out there, BLM land, and just really get away from it, and it really is an escape. So yeah, that's what makes it so much fun.
Agreed.
I enjoy it. So
totally, yeah. 100%. When I first started getting into off-roading, I didn't really know anything about adventure bikes. It was about 3 years ago I started riding motocross because I wanted to learn how to ride a bike off-road. And motocross seemed to be the safe way to do it, because you're not in the middle of the desert where there's no one to see you when you fall. At least with motocross, when you fall, there's a track worker and there's, right, a medical staff. Right. So I started to do motocross. And then one day I saw a guy pull up in one of these adventure bikes at Pala, Fox Raceway. Yeah. And I just looked over, I thought, that looks so cheeseball. And he had all the pannier bags, yeah, and he had like a pizza box on the top, and it just kind of looked boring. Yeah. Well, eventually I got my hands on one, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not at all what it looks like. Right. They're very spirited. Yeah. And I got a hold, my first adventure bike was actually a Pan America, a Harley-Davidson Pan America, sure, 1250S. Yeah. And I took that thing, I was like shocked at how quickly it accelerates, how comfortable you are, leaning the bike over on the road like a sport bike. But, yeah, then you can get off road, and sure, you don't whip it around like a light dirt bike, but, yeah, super capable off road. Right. And, right, I just had this feeling I could go anywhere. Right. And that feeling was like, right, it was like contagious, right, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about the multi-venture experience, like sort of what level of experience, not of the rider, but of the experience that people are going to have there. Sort of you're curating an experience for them. What can they expect in terms of the level of that experience? Okay, well, it's going to sound like we're bragging. Okay, you're asking me to brag a little bit. Okay, well, I'll brag. If there is a 5-star motorcycle tour, this is 6 stars. Okay. We have found we just asked the question,
what would be the most epic thing we can imagine and how can we build it in? So everything from the instruction to the number of guides we have. We have an excessive amount of guides that go with our tours. Most tour companies, if you have a group of 12, will have 3 or 4 guides. We'll have 8 or 9 so that everyone can go their speed. The food is pretty epic. We fly in Joe Rogan's personal chef. Now, Joe Rogan, the UFC president, his personal chef moonlights for us and cooks for our guys on the trail. So, you'll do some really difficult stuff and you'll be on the bike for 12 hours and you'll be sweating your brains out in the middle of the desert. It's 100 degrees. You've got all this armor on. You're like, why did I sign up for this? And then we'll dunk you in an ice bath and we'll take you up to the top of a dune and feed you a tomahawk steak and a 5-course meal. And you're like, oh, now I see what's going on. So we really add, we make it rugged, but we add those 5-star touches in. And it's kind of spectacular, to be honest. It's just really cool to have both. So I would say 6 stars out of 5 is what we're trying to deliver. That's what we're going for.
Okay.
And I think we mostly hit it,
Well, and something I know that you provide for your members who go on these experiences is you've got a photo video team that tags along with you. So tell us about what that involved with that.
Yes. I'm taking some tours from other companies. I won't name names, but I remember I was. How can I say this without giving away too much information? So I went on a tour led by a multi-time world champion. And I'm on top of a dune. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm with my hero. I'm with a guy I've looked up to my whole life. And I'm on top of this dune with him. And there was no one to document it. And my phone was nowhere to be found because we were riding, but I couldn't find my phone. He didn't have his phone. So there was a chase rider that had a cell phone at the bottom of the dune. And he took a picture of us. And we're like this big in the frame. So you can't make out who it is. We have our helmets on so nobody knows. So I couldn't say, I'm with so-and-so, I did this cool thing. And part of me wanted to be able to show my friends that I actually accomplished this thing, was able to go on this tour with this guy. But there was nothing to document it. So I'd had this amazing experience for 2 days, but there was nothing to take home. So I said, if I ever do something like this one day, I think I'm going to have a video team follow us around. So we took that idea and we grew it. So it's not just a video guy. We have 4 video guys, which includes a drone operator. We've got 2 shooters with gimbals and another guy shooting photographs. And then we have an editor that's hiding away in the bushes, editing everything as we do it. So by the time you're done with a tour, we hand you a completely edited highlight reel of everything you just did. So then you can go home and your friends can say, hey, I went to the Chicago Bears game this weekend. What'd you do? And you'd be like, I did this. So it just adds a lot. It helps you relive the experience over again. I think it just adds a lot of value. So that's something we do.
Right. Well, I'm part of the media. We're writers, a media outlet, so we go in press launches, and so it's something I'm used to having is professional photographers. They're documenting us riding a motorcycle. We're testing bikes. They also have professional videographers, and so we go home with these photo and video assets. And I know that that's it's a privilege and a precious resource. Now we're running it, we're publishing it in the magazine, on our website, and so forth. But I know for the vast majority of people who ride motorcycles, what they don't have is photos and video of them
doing
actually out riding. It's one thing, you've got photos of you and your buddies at the Overlook. Maybe you've shot a little bit of GoPro stuff, but that's a totally different deal. So to be able to have a complete photo video package that you can then maybe take some of those photos and put it on your own, social media channel, or you could, like I said, share it with your friends.
Yes.
And frankly, it sounds, the also dirty little secret of most motorcycle press launches is that the manufacturers invite us to, beautiful places to ride new motorcycles. Mm-hmm. They want us to have a great experience, so they put us up in a nice hotel. Yeah. They pay for nice meals. Mm-hmm. We've got all the photo and video stuff. And so it's a very kind of high level experience. Now, we're really there just to talk about the bike itself, and all of that stuff is kind of hidden in the background. But I know that that's an experience that no matter how much money you have, you don't get to go to the brand new press launch for a KTM or Husqvarna unless you're part of a media group. But what you've got is you've got a fleet of brand new motorcycles. You've got a 6-star experience that people can have. And then you've got the photo video team. You're kind of handing somebody what a press launch experience is like that you, like I said, unless you work for a magazine or a website, you wouldn't have access to. So that is definitely.
You guys are spoiled.
It is. Right. It is. And normally we kind of keep that kind of quiet, but I mean, it's for a certain type of person, certain type of rider, certain type of man, you know, they want to have an experience, but then they want to be able to not only share it with those that it's a shared experience, and like I said, it's the beers around the campfire sort of thing, and it's certainly no beer tastes as good and as cold as one after a long, hard day of riding.
So true.
You know, because you've earned it.
Yeah.
But then to be able to go back and tell the stories to your friends and say, hey, here's something I did. And because bragging rights is a big part of things. I mean, whether we own up to it or not, we want to brag to our friends about something cool that we've done. And maybe they can go experience it with them next time. So
yeah, that's a huge part of what we do. And I'm glad you recognize that, because I feel like it just anymore, like today, if you can't put it on Instagram, did it really happen? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've looked at the Instagram feed for ALIV Worldwide, and by the way, if you want to check out the ALIV Worldwide feed, it's ALIV_worldwide. It's on Instagram. I know you guys have got a lot of videos on there. You've got a lot of photos. You really sort of show what the multi-venture experience is like. And there's sitting around campfires out in the desert. Guys got cold beers in their hands. Shows some of the catering. It seems like a really cool experience. So how often are these tours available kind of throughout the year?
Yes. So we started off just doing them once in a while.
Yeah.
Right. Like once a quarter we do a trip. But since we started the online marketing, we're realizing, there's more demand for this kind of thing than we realized.
Yeah.
And it's a good surprise to have.
Sure.
We had no idea when we started marketing how big the demand is, like how many guys want to do things that are exceptional, different, like, just unrepeatable. Like no one ever imagined being able to ride all these different motorcycle types at the same time with 5-star service. Like it just wasn't available.
Right.
So now that it is, people are like, I want to do this. Right. So we moved to 2 a month. So at the first week of every month and the third week of every month, we offer this 4-day experience. And we consider it the first of many, we hope. We hope that what ends up happening is people come and experience the multi-venture. And that's sort of our introductory experience. And then from there, a whole other menu of trips will open up to them. Then now we've got the Baja trips and the Morocco trips, New Zealand trips. But we'd like to get to know the riders and get to know their abilities and get to know how they conduct themselves with other people before we go ahead and invite them to Mexico, for example, where the consequences for misbehavior can be big.
Sure.
So it's we find that it's a great proving ground. When I say a proving ground, I mean we're proving ourselves and the so-called 6-star experience to our customers, and they're displaying how they behave with a group, and if they're the kind of guys that would get along if we were gone for 2 weeks somewhere. So that's what the multi-venture is really about.
Right. So what else is kind of in the works? You've talked about some of these tours in other places, and adventure bikes, are certainly a platform or a vehicle for people to go have some of these experiences. What about some other stuff? I think I saw on your Instagram feed you had something called a speed venture.
Speed venture, right.
Yeah, what's that?
Right, so the nomenclature or whatever, the way we name our naming convention for all of our tours or all of our experiences, they're going to end in venture.
Okay.
Because everything is an adventure.
Yeah.
So the multi-venture is multiple bikes, multiple locations. Yeah. Speed venture is track-based riding. So we'll take you to like a Chuckwalla, for example, and we'll put you on a tuned sport bike, and you'll do road racing, but safely. We'll start you off on a small displacement bike, and as you show competence, move you up, and that'll be a multi-day event. Right. Same idea, fully catered, all the gear is provided. The bike is there, the insurance, everything that you need to enjoy it. Fresh tires, a technical crew, everything you need. It's going to be all filmed. Right. So you'll take it, you'll be like, oh, wow. I went in and I stuck my head in there and I tried a really cool thing and I didn't have to spend $50,000 to do it. Right. So that's speed venture. Yeah. And we'll have comp venture, which is a competition track, where if you come and find out, hey, I like this off-road stuff. It was cool to ride with Mark Samuels and do a Baja simulation ride. What would it be if I wanted to actually learn how to ride the Baja 1000 and I wanted to learn, there's a pathway that we have for guys like that want to actually learn how to race the Baja. Yeah. So we have different modules or pathways, different journeys that you can take once you become an ALIV member, it's really limitless.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to say it's very cool that, you know, the pandemic was a challenging time for a lot of us. I mean, it was, you know, the bottom fell out of the economy. We didn't really know what was going on, and so you went on, you know, this long motorcycle ride that was transformative. And you know, any of us that ride motorcycles know that there can be real therapeutic value to being on a motorcycle. And when you can do it day after day after day, that therapeutic value just kind of sort of like it continues and multiplies and so forth. But then to take an idea and an experience that you had and say, hey, what can I do to share this with others? How can this be the seed for an idea or for a company that I can create something that's not there in the marketplace? So that's very cool. So how's it been so far? It's
scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
You know, as a former finance guy, a businessman, I'm not really a motorcycle guy in that sense, right? I'm not really part of the industry.
Right.
So as a businessman, this is the world's worst idea. Meaning, I mean, it's not a great way to earn income, but it's a fantastic way to share your passion for this sport and for the outdoors. Yeah. It's a great way to meet guys and meet other dudes and do cool stuff together. Yeah. I just find that in this setting, I make friends faster than anywhere else. And so there's a lot of benefits to it that aren't necessarily financial for us. But so it's not, but scary because it's a lot to have 100 motorcycles and move them from place to place to place, so that so when we arrive on you know, location B, that we have 20 fresh bikes waiting for you, and then it's just logistically it's a real challenge, and I can see why no one's ever done this before, because it makes no sense, you know, as an operator, but as a participant, as a person enjoying this, it is mind blowing, and that's the feedback we're getting from our guests. So what we found is when we run these tours at the level that we're telling you that we run them, at the last day, we make an offer for people to keep riding with us. And what we found is more than 80% of the people that rode with us that one time immediately sign up for the next tour. Wow. And then of the remaining 20% that were on the fence, I don't know, they didn't commit to doing something, half of those will call back and be like, okay, I'm in. Yeah, nice. So we've been fortunate that the tour has lived up to the hype, if you will. Right. And so I think it's gone well. We have a lot to learn still. We're adapting and evolving. The speed venture idea that you talked about, actually, that wasn't even our idea. One of our members does a little track racing. He's like, you know, I think a lot of the guys on my tour would love this. Why don't you come try this? I think they'd like it. I'm like, we don't do road racing. We just do, look, I said, we have a lot going on. We already have the adventure bikes and the dual sport and the UTVs. We can't add anything else. It's already too complicated. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah. Let me show you. So what I'm saying is even one of our members inspired this new product. Right. So I like it because it's a community of people that all love adventure sports, and everyone's encouraged to come up with ideas, and then we underwrite them. Right.
Well, I mean, again, you're based here in Murrieta. We talked about how KTM North America is just up the street. So that's KTM, it's Husqvarna, it's Gas. Yeah. It's, you know, there's all kinds of companies that are in this surrounding area. Corona's just up the road, Troy Lee Designs up there, all kinds of companies around here. The thing about the motorcycle industry, and I've been very fortunate, I say I've been part of the industry for 15, 16 years now. I feel one of the things that I'm most fortunate is it's really full of passionate people. Yes. And it's really full of people that work at these companies that used to be former racers, or they raced club level as a kid, and they just want to stay part of the industry. Yeah. So they work for companies that support the industry and so forth. So yes, from a financial standpoint, it might on paper not look like the best idea, but if it's something that you're passionate about, which you clearly are, and that it's something that your members and your clients are getting to be passionate about, you know, hey, sounds like there's certainly a potential upside there, and sounds pretty exciting. I'd love to join one of your multi-ventures sometime, see what the experience is like. Thank you.
You're invited.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Mike, it's been great talking to you and learning more about ALIV Worldwide. So how do people learn more about what's going on?
Well, you can go to our website. It's www.alivworldwide.com. Of course, it's spelled weird. We don't have any E at the end of the ALIV, so it's ALIV Worldwide. Yeah. And you can learn about us. You can go there and click around and learn and see examples of a tour we held in the past and show the different environments, the different kind of bikes we use. There'll be testimonials on there. You can kind of get a sense of what we do and get a feel for it. And then if you're interested in like actually learning more in a deeper way, just click on the link. It'll say learn more, and you can book a call with one of our adventure specialists, and we'll walk you through how you can get enrolled. We have adventures coming up every month, so that's good. They are kind of filling up, to be frank. Not a salesy thing to say, but it's happening.
Sure.
So if you'd like to get involved in 2025, get on the phone sooner rather than later and just come talk with us about it. There's no obligation. Call, and you can just learn to see if it'd be appropriate for you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in. This has been a great conversation with Mike Noyes from ALIV Worldwide. I'm Greg Drevenstead, your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. Thanks for listening, and keep the rubber side down. If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.